long time ago in a podcast setting far, far away.
Podcast in session. Codoman has been looking for a movie to talk about for his next episode of Codo Cinema. Movies are everywhere, and there are so many for Codoman to talk about. Prior to his previous episodes that Codoman did, he decided to look into another Star Wars movie. The Star Wars movie that Codoman picked is from 2005, and the movie itself is celebrating its 20th anniversary. Hello and welcome to another episode of Codo Cinema, the podcast show where I talk about movies. I'm your host, Mark Codo, aka Codoman. Well, folks, if you heard my opening crawl, you have guessed it right. I'm going to talk about Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. This movie in general, at least from my opinion, I say this movie, Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, is one of the best Star Wars movie out there. And, of course, the best Star Wars movie from the prequel trilogy. Now, Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith is a 2005 American epic space opera film that is the sequel to The Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones. It is the sixth film in the Star Wars film series and the third installment in the Star Wars Prequel Trilogy, and third chronological chapter of the Skywalker saga. It was written and directed by George Lucas, who also served as an executive producer. The film stars Ewan McGregor, Natalie Portman, Hayden Christensen, Ian McDiarmid, Samuel L. Jackson, Christopher Lee, Anthony Daniels, Kenny Baker, and Frank Oz. Revenge of the Sith is set 3 years after the onset of the Clone Wars, as established in Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones, which depicts the rise of Darth Sidious and the Galactic Empire, as well as Anakin Skywalker turning to the dark side of the Force, which will have wide-ranging consequences in the galaxy that led to the extermination of the Jedi. Now before I go into the background of this, yes, it will be one of the topics I'll talk about. It's going to be brief, but I'm also going to break down this movie while also giving my overall thoughts and, of course, trivia as well. So George Lucas began writing the script before production of Attack of the Clones ended, saying he wanted the end of the trilogy to be similar to a romantic tragedy, thus leading into Darth Vader's state at the beginning of the next film. Production of Revenge of the Sith started in June 2003, and filming took place in Australia, Thailand, Switzerland, China, Italy, and United Kingdom. Filming for this movie, although the first scene filmed was the final scene to appear in the film, shot during the filming of Attack of the Clones, the first bulk of principal photography on the film occurred from June 30th, 2003 to September 17th of 2003, with additional photography at Shepperton Studios in Surrey, Elstree Studios in Hertfordshire from August 2004 to January 31st of 2005. Now on my end, I have seen this movie multiple times. In my opinion, this is my favorite Star Wars movie out of the bunch. Now, no, granted, Star Wars Empire Strikes Back is obviously the best Star Wars movie to come out of the franchise. Now, going from a personal side, you're probably wondering, what's your favorite Star Wars movie? And I'm pretty sure everybody's going to have a Star Wars movie of their own that they personally liked to have that they'll personally liked. Personally, on my end, Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith is arguably my favorite Star Wars movie. Of course, the film was released on May 15th of 2005 at Cannes, and then May 19th, 2005 in the United States. And of course, this year marks its 20th anniversary for Revenge of the Sith. So Star Wars Episode 3 is celebrating its 20th anniversary. And of course, just recently, it is having its re-release in theaters in honor of its anniversary. Now, Star Wars is basically under the Walt Disney banner. The re-release would premiere in both The re-release will premiere in both American and worldwide theaters on April 25th of 2025. through the Walt Disney Studios motion picture through the 20th Century Studios label. The film will be, and of course, the film itself is screened in 4DX for the first time. And of course, this technology includes motion-enabled seating synchronized with various environmental effects designed to enhance the viewing experience. And it's amazing that it got a re-release for 2025 in honor of its 20th anniversary. So that's amazing right there. Prior to the release date, the film's budget was $113 million and it grossed $850 million, making it the second highest grossing film in the Star Wars franchise at the time, and it was the highest grossing film in the US and the second highest grossing film worldwide in 2005. It also holds the record for the highest opening day on a Thursday at $50 million. And Star Wars Revenge of the Sith was the last Star Wars film distributed by 20th Century Fox, although it was also acquired by Disney over 6 years after it acquired Lucasfilm. The film received mostly positive reviews from critics with praise for the mature themes, darker tone, emotional depth, and performances, although some criticism was reserved for Lucas's screenplay and Hayden Christensen's performance, and many people consider it the best installment of the trilogy, which is absolutely true because Star Wars Revenge of the Sith really knocked it out of the ballpark. I really enjoyed this movie, and I know a lot of people really did. And yes, there are flaws in the Star Wars Prequel Trilogy, episodes 1 through 3. Of course, this is all in the writing and the story, and of course maybe some of the performances too. Like obviously at the time, Hayden Christensen's performance as Anakin Skywalker, when first released, a lot of people really criticized Hayden Christensen's performance. This is more on a writing standpoint, and of course, Anakin in the prequel films, most notably episodes 2 and 3, comes off as like a whiny brat. But I feel like that's more in episode 2, where Anakin is more whiny. It's more whiny in episode 2 than episode 3. Yeah, in episode 3 he was still whining, but he kind of matured a little bit. But he pretty much matured a lot more in episode 3, in my personal opinion. But that's just my opinion on Hayden Christensen's performance. But of course, the writing itself, yes, the writing itself is all over the place, and it's basically, like, yeah. but in hindsight, this movie, in my opinion, I believe this movie also has some of the most memorable quotes. So anyway, with that being said, let's go to a galaxy far, far away and talk about the best Star Wars movie in the prequel trilogy, Revenge of the Sith. So obviously enough, this movie opens up with the opening crawl, and of course John Williams' music plays in the background, and the opening crawl that says Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, and I quote, "War, the Republic is crumbling under attacks by the ruthless Sith Lord Count Dooku. There are heroes on both sides, evil is everywhere. In a stunning move, the fiendish droid leader General Grievous has swept into the Republic capital and kidnapped Chancellor Palpatine, leader of the Galactic Senate. As the Separatist droid army attempts to flee the besieged capital with their valuable hostage, 2 Jedi Knights led a desperate mission to rescue the captive Chancellor." And that is the opening crawl, which transitions to, obviously, the Battle of Coruscant. And the opening sequence for this, best way to open up episode 3. Obviously, it opens up with a battle. It's just like, no, it cuts to the actual battle over Coruscant. Like, obviously, I can't think of a way of how to open it. I can't think of a way of how to open it up. I mean, sure, yeah, I guess you could say that Star Wars: A New Hope did that with the stormtroopers, fighting off the rebels. And then, of course, Episode 7 did that as well on the planet of Jakku, and of course, Episode 8 as well. But for this one, come on, like, it's a good way. Come on, Episode 3 opened it up very well. Like, it transitions, the camera pans down to the planet Coruscant with a Republic attack cruiser flying over the planets, and then of course Anakin and Obi-Wan's starfighters are flying over while John Williams' music is playing in the background. And this is basically the crucial battle high over the planet Coruscant, where Anakin Skywalker and Obi-Wan Kenobi, both played by Hayden Christensen and Ewan McGregor, attempt a daring rescue of Supreme Chancellor Palpatine from General Grievous' command ship. Also to note, this is set 3 years. This is also going on for 3 years. The Clone Wars have raged across the galaxy as Republic and Separatist forces fight for dominance. Now, of course, the whole aerial battle is really, really good. Like Anakin and Obi-Wan are flying to General Grievous' command ship to rescue the Chancellor. Of course, they also get backup from the clone troopers who are being played by Tamora Morrison, and also fighting off multiple Vulture droids and Buzz droids, to which R2-D2 knocks out the last one. So, upon finding Chancellor Palpatine, who's being played by Ian McDiarmid, they encounter Count Dooku, being played by Christopher Lee, who engages the two Jedi in a lightsaber fight. He manages to knock out Obi-Wan Kenobi, but Anakin ends up getting the upper hand, which is basically him chopping off Count Dooku's hands, leading to the Chancellor requesting that Dooku be killed. Anakin at one point hesitates, saying, "I shouldn't," but eventually decapitates Count Dooku. So the three attempt to escape the ship before Grievous finds out where they are and captures them. Bringing them to the ship's bridge, the Jedi, thanks to R2-D2, create a diversion causing Grievous to flee his ship, but also took out all the escape pods. As the ship begins to plummet into the planet's upper atmosphere, Anakin attempts a daring crash landing that manages to get them back onto the planet, rescuing the Chancellor. After these events, Anakin is reunited with his wife Padme Amidala, being played by Natalie Portman, who tells him that she is pregnant. Despite Padme's worries over their secret marriage, Anakin is overjoyed at the news, and the couple began making plans to raise their children. However, Anakin is troubled by visions of Padme dying in childbirth, and the fears of how he was unable to save his mother resurface. Seeking counsel from Jedi Master Yoda, being played by Frank Oz, Anakin is unwilling to take the Master's advice to not develop strong attachments, lest greed led him to the dark side of the Force. Following the meeting, Palpatine meets with Anakin and requests him be the Chancellor's personal representative on the Jedi Council. Such an appointment would automatically make Anakin a Jedi Master, but as the Council did not make this decision, they reached a compromise. Anakin may sit on the Council per the Chancellor's wishes, but not be given the rank of Master, leading to Anakin becoming angered at the decision. And of course, this decision was made by Mace Windu, being played by Samuel L. Jackson. Of course, Anakin's like, "What? Why?" But of course, Mace Windu is like, "Take a seat, young Skywalker." I mean, hey, Samuel L. Jackson delivered that line perfectly. Following a council meeting wherein it is decided that Yoda is to go to Kashyyyk to assist the Wookiees in fighting against the Separatists, Anakin is concerned when Obi-Wan tells him off the record that the council wished him to spy on the Chancellor, suspicious of his actions. Anakin appears to accept the request, but grows further delusioned by the council asking him to spy on someone he trusts. That's weird. Anakin grows even more upset when Padme claims she feels the Republic is growing more corrupt, and asks him to talk to the Chancellor to help end the war and resume diplomacy. One evening, Anakin is called to the Coruscant Opera House for a private meeting with the Chancellor, who tells him that they have found General Grievous and the Separatist leaders hiding on the planet Utapau. Palpatine then requests Anakin to sit with him and confides in Anakin that he believes the Jedi want to overthrow him and take over the Republic. Anakin attempts to defend the Jedi, but finds himself conflicted. It is then that Palpatine starts telling him about a Sith legend, and that Sith legend is basically Darth Plagueis the Wise, who could use the powers of the dark side to save people from dying. This catches Anakin's attention, but Palpatine warns Anakin that such powers cannot be wielded by a Jedi. Following the news of Grievous's whereabouts, the Council decides to send Obi-Wan Kenobi to take on General Grievous, going against the Chancellor's recommendation to have Anakin sent. Anakin is at first upset, but after some time to reflect, he sees Obi-Wan off and apologizes for his frustrations as of late. Obi-Wan confides in his friend that he feels that Skywalker will eventually become a master, but just needs to be patient. Now, of course, Obi-Wan eventually engages General Grievous, and of course, Anakin is sent by the Council to tell the news to Palpatine. Now, of course, Master Yoda is on the planet Kashyyyk, and he meets up with Chewbacca. Yes, Chewbacca is in this movie. To anybody who's listening, yep. And it's still the same actor, Peter Mayhew. Peter Mayhew plays Chewbacca in this movie. And of course they have a battle on Kashyyyk with all the battle droids who are riding their tanks on water, which is pretty odd. But hey, whatever. Including a spider droid coming out of the water. I'm pretty sure a crab droid will do that too. And of course all the clone troopers are there too. Plus, if you also pay attention to Jedi Master Luminar Unduli is also on the planet Kashyyyk as well. Now, of course, going to Obi-Wan Kenobi's side, Obi-Wan Kenobi flies his starship to Utapau, where he's confronting General Grievous. He meets up with one of the planet's advisors to let Kenobi know that Grievous is here. And he's got a huge army, tens of thousands of battle droids. And Obi-Wan Kenobi tells the advisor to, if you have troops, now is the time. So Obi-Wan Kenobi tells his starfighter Ashman. I forgot the droid's name. It's not R4P17. It's a different astromech droid, kind of like R2D2, but it's like a different R unit, right? And tells the droid to send a message to the Council, and then Obi-Wan obviously finds Grievous. He finds Grievous, and and he delivers probably one of the most memed lines I have ever heard in this movie. He jumps from the high point of he jumps from a high floor, lands right behind Grievous and his droid army, and Obi-Wan says, "Hello there." All the droids, including General Grievous, turns around, and Grievous is like, "General Kenobi, you are a bold one." I can't imagine how many times people have been quoting this scene. Now granted, there are other lines in this movie too, like Obi-Wan Kenobi saying, "Oh, this is gonna be easy," when he was, flying with Anakin to fight off the Vulture droids, and then obviously Anakin saying, "This is where the fun begins." Oh my goodness, there's so many lines in this. There's so many lines in this that are memorable. But of course, Obi-Wan Kenobi's "Hello there" line is obviously one of the funniest lines I've heard in this movie, and probably one of the few lines that is basically memed, right? But of course, Obi-Wan Kenobi takes out General Grievous's bodyguard droids. They're basically called Magna Guards. And of course, Grievous is like, "Back away!" telling his battle droids to back off. He's like, "I will deal with this Jedi scum myself." Obi-Wan's like, "Your move?" And then Grievous is like, "You fool! I've been trained in your Jedi arts by Count Dooku." Which I'm pretty sure he was trained like that since the Clone Wars. The Genndy Tartakovsky one, and the Star Wars The Clone Wars show that Dave Filoni did. I'll be honest, the fight itself between Obi-Wan and Grievous is really good. It starts off with a lightsaber battle. Obi-Wan Kenobi going up against General Grievous, and he's got 4 lightsabers. 4 different lightsabers. And of course, it also resembles them as trophies, right? Like General Grievous has got a lightsaber collection from fallen Jedi victims, right? It's like Grievous has killed off so many Jedi, in the Genndy Tartakovsky Star Wars show, he has killed off so many Jedi Knights. He keeps the lightsabers as trophies. Just to let you all know. And of course, also as a side note too, this movie takes place after the events of the finale of Genndy Tartakovsky's Star Wars show as well. Fight itself is really good. Like, first round of the fight is basically a lightsaber fight, and then the second time was basically a chase sequence on General Grievous's, I forgot what it's called. It looks like a space motorcycle or something, I don't know. Or a cruiser or something, I don't know. Or I don't know, I completely forgot what it's called. But of course, the third round of the fight takes place on ground, right next to General Grievous's ship. Like, it's like a hand-to-hand combat. No lightsaber in action. It's just a gun and one of Grievous's bodyguards' staff. One of those, like, electrocuted staffs, I believe. And the fist fight is pretty good, to the point where it gets into two crazy moments. One moment is basically Obi-Wan Kenobi opening up Grievous's chest, revealing his heart and lungs. Grievous just Grievous punched Obi-Wan in the face, you know, because he just exposed him. And then Obi-Wan Kenobi kicks Grievous in the leg, and Obi-Wan screams in pain because he just kicked an actual droid from behind. Like, dude, I thought Obi-Wan was a Jedi Master. Should he have known that Grievous is basically a droid? Like, how many battles has Obi-Wan fought with Grievous, and yet he hurts, and yet he feels the metal pain in his legs? And of course, it was a funny moment. And then the next part is Obi-Wan uses the Force to grab Grievous's gun, and he shoots him in the chest 5 times until Grievous blows up and dies. And that's basically it. That's the end of the battle. And of course, we get this funny one. And of course, we get this one-liner. So uncivilized. Just telling how uncivilized General Grievous was. And that's basically the end of the fight. Nice. It was a good fight, by the way. So anyway, Anakin basically reached Palpatine's office. The Chancellor then reveals to Anakin that he is a Sith Lord. However, given what Palpatine has told him, Anakin is unable to bring himself to strike down. Strike me down with all your hatred, and your journey towards the dark side will be completed. Although, of course, Palpatine, of course, Anakin was about to strike down Palpatine, but of course, Anakin is unable to bring himself to strike down Palpatine, feeling he knows how to save Padme. So then later on, Anakin then returns to the Jedi Temple, only to find that Obi-Wan Kenobi has killed General Grievous and Mace Windu and the other Jedi, which is basically Kit Fisto and I don't know who the other Jedi is. I forgot the name of the other Jedis, but Kit Fisto is one of them. Like they're like Mace Windu and the other Jedi are going to make sure that emergency powers that the Chancellor has are returned to the Senate. Which is when Anakin reveals that Palpatine is a Sith Lord. The news change. This news changes Windu's plans, and he orders Anakin to wait in the council chambers until he and the others return. Anakin intends to stay calm, but realizes that the Jedi will kill Palpatine, and with him will go the secret to keeping his wife alive. Jumping into a ship, Anakin returns to the Chancellor's office, only to find Mace Windu holding Palpatine at saber point. By the way, Mace Windu and the other Jedi fight off Chancellor Palpatine. Like Mace Windu was like, in the name of the Galactic Son of the Republic, you are under arrest, Chancellor. Are you threatening me, Master Jedi? The Senate will decide your fate. I am the Senate. Not yet. And then Chancellor Palpatine pulls out his lightsaber. It's a golden lightsaber, by the way. And he's like, it's treason, then. And of course, jumps from his chair and spins, and of course, does like a jump spin. Takes out Kit Fisto and the two other Kit Fisto and the two other Jedis. And it was just Chancellor Palpatine and Mace Windu fighting. And of course, both of them gave each other the face. Like, oh my goodness. The face reactions when they're clashing is so funny. It is so funny. It is so funny. But of course, what's also funny too is that when Mace Windu and Chancellor Palpatine are over by the window, over by the window, and of course the window breaks as well. and of course the window breaks, of course, from the lightsaber of Chancellor Palpatine. Like, Mace Windu kicks Palpatine in the face, falls on the edge, loses his lightsaber. It's a red lightsaber, but it's a golden lightsaber. Although the saber itself is red when it opens up, and Palpatine crawls to the corner like a coward. He's basically down without a weapon, or is he? So of course, Mace Windu has the Chancellor, at saber point, and of course, Mace Windu is about to, going to kill Chancellor Palpatine, but Palpatine's like, no, you will die. Like, Palpatine uses his lightning powers to, strike down Windu, but unfortunately, Mace Windu deflects it back on Palpatine, causing his face to take on a hideous visage. Like, man, like, it is a hideous visage. Like, his face is now wrinkled, right, from the lightning. And of course, Anakin tells Mace Windu that Palpatine should stand trial. But of course, Windu is determined to kill the Sith Lord, but not before Anakin intervenes. Not before Anakin intervenes, slicing off Mace Windu's hand and leading to Palpatine blasting the Jedi Master with Force lightning and throwing him out the broken window. Reeling for the realization that he attacked one of his superiors, Anakin's like, "What have I done?" Anakin is unsure what to do until Palpatine requests that he become his apprentice and learns the powers of the dark side. Anakin pledges his service to the Dark Lord and is then knighted as Darth Vader. Palpatine then claims that every Jedi is now an enemy of the Republic, and that the entire order must be destroyed. Otherwise, they will plunge the Republic into a perpetual state of civil war. Anakin is then tasked with destroying those in the Jedi Temple before going to Mustafar to destroy the Separatist leaders and, of course, Viceroy Newt Gunray, and end the war. This is where Anakin leads an attack on the temple with the clone army, and Palpatine reaches out to all the clone commanders, including Commander Cody, across the galaxy to execute an order, which is Execute Order 66, which causes all the clones to turn on their Jedi generals. Once his dark deeds are finished, Anakin goes to Padme, claiming he saw Mace Windu attempt to kill Palpatine, claiming that his allegiance now lies with the Chancellor. He then tells Padme he must go to Mustafar and intends to end the war once and for all. This sequence, however, Execute Order 66, one of the best scenes in this movie. Like the way how it goes. It's like it goes back and forth. Like Obi-Wan is obviously the first one to get killed. Although Obi-Wan Kenobi was obviously the first Jedi that the clone troopers ordered to take him down, right? Like Commander Cody tells the troops to blast him, right? Thankfully, Obi-Wan survives the fall, right? And then all the other clone troopers killed off all the other Jedi, including Ki-Adi-Mundi on a snow-like planet. By the way, it's not Hoth. I think it's a different planet. It's a different planet. And then of course, there's another. Of course, one of the other clone commanders, Commander Bly kills Ayla Secura on another planet I forgot the other planet, but it was like a flower-like. It's like a flower-like planet, and then of course, Jedi Master Plo Koon, who is basically flying his starship, he gets blown away by one of the clone troopers riding this ARC 170 starfighter. And then of course it also cuts to Master Yoda, where he almost got shot down, but he feels the power of the Force, knowing the fact that knowing the fact that the Jedi are being hunted down and getting killed, right? So Yoda, through his senses, decapitates two of the clone generals from behind, and he's like, I'm not taking this crap. Like he literally decapitates both clone generals, and of course Chewbacca and another Wookiee. I forgot the other Wookiee's name. I think it's Tarful or something. Yeah, it was Tarful. Tarful was with Chewbacca, and they both saw what happened, like realizing like, what the hell is that? But Yoda knew something was happening. So anyway, Yoda, Chewbacca, and Tarful run away from this battle. Of course, Yoda in the middle of the night finds a escape pod. I believe it's an escape pod. So Yoda goes back to a ship. I believe it's Yavin 4. I believe that's the name of the ship, and he's basically safe. So then, as for Anakin and the clones are in the Jedi Temple, and of course this leads to Anakin, who finds the young Jedi, who finds the kids who are basically the Jedi younglings, and one of the kids is like, "Master Skywalker, there are too many of them. What are we gonna do?" But Anakin, oh, y'all know the scene. Okay, Anakin takes down the Jedi younglings. He does, yes, because, well, I guess you could say one of the kids called him a master, even though Anakin is not a master, and I guess he's like, "What did you call me?" And he just like ignites his lightsabers and just takes down the Jedi younglings. Like, we don't see it. Well, at least in this movie, but yeah, you could definitely tell that Anakin took down the younglings. So then, of course, we do get the scene where Anakin goes to Padme, telling him that, of course, he's going to go to Mustafar, and the whole Chancellor Palpatine almost being killed. So then later on, Senator Bail Organa, being played by Jimmy Smits, happens to see the temple under attack, but is turned away by the clone troopers. As he is about to leave, he sees a young Jedi attempting to fight them off before the troopers kill him. Escaping from the temple, Organa is concerned for the Jedi, and going aboard his ship, heads off into space to see if he can find others who have survived the purge. He soon encounters Yoda and Obi-Wan Kenobi, who manage to escape. Yoda claims a retreat signal that is being broadcast from the Jedi Temple, and Obi-Wan recommends they go back there to stop it, to keep any other Jedi from returning and being killed. Upon their return to Coruscant, Bail is requested to attend an emergency meeting of the Congress, while Yoda and Obi-Wan sneak off to the temple. Bail meets with Padme Amidala in the Senate, where the two hear Palpatine declare that the Jedi Rebellion has been foiled. After they attempted to overthrow the Senate, promising to wipe out every remaining Jedi, Palpatine then declares that the Republic will now be reorganized into the First Galactic Empire for safe and secured society. Much to the horror of Padme and Bail, Padme Amidala says this line, "So this is how liberty dies," with thunderous applause from those around them who believes the Emperor's lies. And then, of course, back at the temple, Obi-Wan and Yoda have succeeded in infiltrating the ruins by taking out the clone troopers. We even get a cool move from Yoda where he literally throws his lightsabers and impales one of the clone troopers. It's a real cool moment, including a moment where the camera zooms in on Yoda posing with his lightsaber. That's awesome. And of course, Obi-Wan and Yoda discover the whole massacre of the temple's younglings, and this gets Obi-Wan shaken. And Obi-Wan is like, "Not even the younglings have survived the attack." And after taking care of the code, Obi-Wan finds security hologram footage and is shaken when he sees Anakin has killed off many Jedi Knights. These acts pledging his allegiance to Palpatine. Yoda claims that the Sith must be destroyed. The Sith must be destroyed. Destroy the Sith. We must. So then, Yoda decides to fight off Emperor Palpatine, and of course, this leads to Obi-Wan to seek out Anakin. So the following day, Obi-Wan goes to Padme, who is unwilling to believe the claims that her husband has turned to the dark side, and that Palpatine is behind everything, including the war, or tell Obi-Wan that she knows where he is. Obi-Wan also senses that Padme is pregnant, but can only apologize for what he knows he must do concerning the baby's father. Like, Obi-Wan tells Padme a couple other things, like Obi-Wan tells Padme that he saw the hologram of Anakin killing younglings, and then of course telling Padme Anakin is the father, right? And it's sad. It's sad to realize that Anakin has come this far. Like, he was at one point at the light side, but unfortunately, with everything that is going on, it dragged him down to the dark side, right? And Anakin Skywalker goes to the Mustafar system, which this system is it's basically a volcanic planet. It is a hellish planet right there. Like, this is like Anakin is basically in hell at this point. He and R2D2 are basically on the planet of Mustafar, and Anakin tells R2 to stay with the ship, and R2 is like, I don't know what he said, but I'm pretty sure he's like, you want me to stay in the ship? Oh man. Wow, way to treat your droid, Anakin Skywalker. I thought you were nice to your good droids, like R2 and C-3PO. But let's be honest, Anakin Skywalker has killed off the evil droids, right? The battle droids, right? So then, Anakin meets up with the Separatist leaders, and all the Separatist leaders were waiting for Anakin, or Darth Vader, I should say, and even before that, Palpatine is basically talking to them via hologram, and Palpatine was like, "Don't worry, Darth Vader will take real good care of you. And then, of course, mouse droids start coming in, revealing Darth Vader, or Anakin, I should say. And Newt Gunray was like, "Welcome, Lord Vader. We've been expecting you." And of course, Anakin shuts the doors, and Anakin uses the Force to close off all the doors. And one by one, Anakin kills off all the Separatist leaders. Like, He kills like, now some of them I can pinpoint a couple of them because I have seen the Clone Wars TV show, although I am still working on season 5 of Star Wars The Clone Wars, though. I am still working on, like, I think I'm done with season, I believe I'm done with season 4. No, season 5. I'm still on season 5 of The Clone Wars, I believe. I mean, don't quote me on that, but I'm still working on Star Wars: The Clone Wars. But some of the Separatist leaders I can name off of. Wat Tambor is one of them, and then of course there is a Genosian warlord named Pago the Lesser who in a blinking you'll miss him moment, Anakin kills him, and then of course a couple of battle droids as well. But also Anakin kills the last remaining leader, which is basically Newt Gunray, and he was like, "War is over. Lord Sidious promised us peace. We were only." But Anakin kills him by doing an uppercut slice with his lightsaber. So Anakin killed all the Separatist leaders per Palpatine's orders, and after reporting on these events to Palpatine, the Sith Lord tells his apprentice to have the Separatist droid units to be shut down immediately. I think this and pretty much right there, yeah. After the meeting between Obi-Wan and Padme heads to Mustafar, where she confronts Anakin, telling of what Obi-Wan explained to her. Anakin claims Obi-Wan is lying, and that he is now powerful enough to not only protect her, but powerful enough that the two of them can rule the galaxy. Like, he tells Padme, "I'm more powerful than the Chancellor. I can overthrow him. And together, you and I can rule the galaxy. Make things the way we want it to be." But then the words cause Padme to feel Anakin is too far gone. And she's like, I don't understand this. I cannot believe what I'm hearing. Obi-Wan was right. But as she desperately tries to make him see reason, Anakin sees Obi-Wan aboard her ship and angrily assumes she brought Kenobi to, kill Anakin Skywalker. And in a blind rage, Anakin attempts to choke his wife before she passes out. And we get this moment right there, where Anakin and Obi-Wan are having an argument. You turned her against me! You have done that yourself! And this whole argument continues, and it is so good. It is so good. Like, Obi-Wan's like, your anger have already done that. You have allowed this Dark Lord to twist your mind, and now you have become the main thing that you are. And Anakin is like, don't lecture me, Obi-Wan. I have seen the ways. I have seen the ways. I have brought peace, freedom, justice, and security to my new empire. Obi-Wan, who's basically has no idea what Anakin was like talking about, and he was like, your new empire? Anakin, my allegiance is to the Republic, to democracy. But of course, we get the moment where Anakin was like, if you're not with me, then you're my enemy. Obi-Wan at the moment, standing right behind a sunlight that is shining upon him, and Obi-Wan was like, only a Sith deals with obsolete. I will do what I must. Anakin was like, you will try. And then the lightsaber fight happens, and the two begin a fierce duel. Now, what I really like about this scene right there is basically the symbolism of this. To anybody who has seen this movie, there is a moment of symbolism. Like, if you see this, you get the shot of basically Anakin turning his back on Obi-Wan, right? Like, it's just basically the fiery background, and it's just basically the fiery background on Anakin. And then another shot later is basically, while fiery background, there is a sunlight shining right behind Obi-Wan Kenobi. Like, this symbolizes the light side and the dark side, but also symbolizing that Obi-Wan's was at the very least trying, like, this, I guess you could say it's also an argument, but also a moment, like, Obi-Wan's there to, like, talk sense into Anakin, like trying to bring him back to the light side of things, try to come back, this is basically, like, similar to, like, this is kind of like, it's very similar to, like, coming back to the light, like God, right? And then, like Obi-Wan is trying to be peaceful with this, like, Anakin, come back to the light side with me. I can help you. But Anakin is like, screw you, Obi-Wan. Like, Anakin is basically in hell at this point. He's basically a fallen Jedi. Another thing to mention that it's like a fallen angel as well. Like a fallen angel as well. Like, Anakin used to be an angel. Now he's basically a fallen angel. A good Jedi once a good Jedi turned to a fallen Jedi, being twisted by the lies of the dark side of the Force. That's what I really liked about this scene. Like, it symbolizes something. It symbolizes the good side and the bad side. The light side and the dark side. And then, of course, we get the lightsaber fight, which is basically, in my opinion, the best lightsaber fight in this movie. And I'll get to more. There's a bit of trivia about this lightsaber fight I will talk about. But this fight, there's a bit of trivia for that lightsaber fight, and I will get to that pretty soon. But I'll say this. The fight between Obi-Wan and Anakin, it starts off very good. It is a fast-paced lightsaber battle. Like, I don't remember how long. It feels like 20 minutes. It feels like a 20-minute lightsaber fight. Almost. It almost feels like a 20-minute lightsaber fight, but I feel like it's 10 minutes, I believe. It almost feels like a 10-minute lightsaber fight. Maybe longer. but man, is it real good. The lightsaber choreography is amazing. Like, hands down, the prequel trilogy has the best lightsaber fights. And not only that, not only is that fight going on, we even get a fight between Yoda and and Chancellor Palpatine, to which the fight between Yoda and Palpatine, that is like a fight that we have never asked for, but we got it. It's the fight that we have never asked for, but somehow we got it. Like, Yoda fighting Emperor Palpatine, two of the biggest masters out there, duking it out with lightsabers. Like, you got the little green guy, and of course the big tall guy, which is basically Darth Sidious, right? Yoda's like, I hear a new apprentice you have, Emperor, or should I call you Darth Sidious? Palpatine's like, Master Yoda, you survived. Your arrogance blinds you, Master Yoda. Now you experience the full power of the dark side. Like Palpatine uses his Force lightning to knock out Yoda, but thankfully Yoda comes back. But thankfully Yoda is able to stand up, and Yoda uses the Force on Palpatine to, send him flying to his desk, and the two of them duke it out in a lightsaber fight, with the music from John Williams playing in the background. Like, John Williams did an amazing job. He was robbed of an Oscar nomination because this score that he had, I think it's the best score that he had. Like, I think it's the best score that he had for the prequel trilogy, in my opinion. He should have been nominated for an Oscar. Of course, I think he should have been nominated for episode 1 and 2 as well, but that's just my opinion. But anyway, the fight is real good. Like Yoda and Palpatine are going so fast. They go on this stage, and it goes all the way up to the whole Senate facility, where it's an empty Senate facility with all the seats. Like, no one is there. Imagine the entire Senate watching this fight. Imagine how crazy that is. Like, what's also crazy that it is empty. It is an empty Senate stadium right there. That is crazy. And Yoda and Palpatine throws all the Senate chairs towards Yoda to the point where Yoda and Palpatine once again do this Force lightning duel. And Yoda deflects it on Palpatine, although it deflects on Yoda too. And Yoda is basically knocked out, and falls all the way down to the bottom of the Senate. So my guess is, I'm pretty sure Palpatine kind of won this fight, but yeah, Yoda lost. Yeah, Yoda failed to stop Palpatine, but of course, but hey, I guess you could say that Palpatine also won the fight as well. So anyway, Yoda escapes. He meets up with Bail Organa. And then the fight between Obi-Wan and Anakin continues, right? Like, it continues on. It goes to different locations on Mustafar, basically on the base. Like, it goes from the bridge. It goes from the front side of Mustafar to basically the control room where Anakin killed off all the Separatist leaders, leading up to a bridge that Anakin and Obi-Wan are on, which actually comes off with lava, and of course they're on top of this bridge, which is basically turned into a pole, and Anakin and Obi-Wan are fighting on that, leading to the point where they're basically both on different platforms duking it out, leading to the point where Obi-Wan gets onto land. It says, "It's over, Anakin! I have the high ground!" Anakin also, I forgot to mention this. And of course, like, Anakin and Obi-Wan are on moving platforms. They continue to duke it out. They also exchange lines. Obi-Wan's like, "I have failed you, Anakin. I have failed you." Anakin was like, I should have known the Jedi trying to force this. And then Obi-Wan's like, Anakin, Chancellor Palpatine is evil. Anakin says, from my point of view, that you and the Jedi are evil. Obi-Wan tells Anakin off, well then you are lost. Oh my goodness, like I can't, like there's so many lines in this movie. So many lines. And then of course we get this line from Obi-Wan, which I'm pretty sure is basically the Obi-Wan Kenobi line that everybody has been saying, which a lot of people have been saying, it's over Anakin! I have the high ground! And then Anakin was like, you have underestimated my power! Obi-Wan was like, don't try it! But unfortunately, Anakin tries it, and what Obi-Wan does next, he cuts off both of Anakin's legs and his other arm. And of course, this sends Anakin tumbling down to the edge of the lava river. Obi-Wan watches Anakin, like, suffering, and Obi-Wan says, you were the chosen one! You were sent on here to destroy the Sith, not join them! Bring balance to the Force, not leave it in darkness! But Anakin tells how much he hated Obi-Wan. He's like, oh, I hate you! And Obi-Wan says this very last line, you were my brother, Anakin. I loved you. And then Obi-Wan watches Anakin burn. It burns him. It literally burns him. Like Anakin catches on fire from the river. And he screams in pain and agony, burning to a crisp. Like, Kenobi tries desperately not to watch. And takes Anakin's lightsaber and leaves, unable to help Anakin and unwilling to kill him. Sometime later, having sensed that his apprentice was in danger, Palpatine arrives on Mustafar. The apprentice is then taken to an Imperial medical facility on Coruscant, where begins the painful task of trying to save Anakin. Obi-Wan, on the other hand, has taken Padme to a distant asteroid wherein they are met by Yoda and Bail Organa. A medical examination shows Padme appears to be healthy but seems to have lost the will to live. It is also revealed that she is pregnant with twins, and the medical droids work quickly to save the babies. Padme manages to see each of them, naming them Luke and Layla. Following the births, Padme tells Obi-Wan that she still believes some good exists in Anakin before she dies. And then, back on Coruscant, Anakin has been rebuilt with a black suit. This is basically the famous Darth Vader black suit that he is wearing, to which he is inside, and the one thing keeping him alive and that's the one thing that is keeping him alive. And then of course you also got the famous Darth Vader helmet as well, with the breathing. So then, as he inquires about Padme, Palpatine claims in Anakin's anger, it seems in your anger you killed her. And then Vader is like, I couldn't have. She was alive. I felt it. This becomes a bitter blow to the once promising Jedi who sacrificed everything but now realizes he has lost everything to his greed. Leading up to this moment, no! Was that supposed to be funny or sad? I don't understand. In all seriousness, though, following Padme's death, her body is returned to Naboo. To keep her children safe, Bail Organa takes Layla to be his adopted daughter on Alderaan, while Obi-Wan Kenobi takes Luke to his uncle and aunt on Tatooine. While Yoda also tells Obi-Wan that he will watch over Luke. He has training for him to conduct, which is basically from Qui-Gon Jinn. On Bail's ship, he also leaves C-3PO and R2-D2 in the care of the ship's captain, telling the loyal crew member to have the protocol droids mind wiped. And then, of course, on Naboo, there is a funeral held for Queen Amidala. And then, on a Star Destroyer, the Emperor and Darth Vader are now supervising the early stages of the super weapon called the Death Star. And of course, also right next to Vader and the Emperor is basically Grand Moff Tarkin as well. On Alderaan, Bail returns to his wife and hands her their new adopted daughter. And on Tatooine, Obi-Wan hands Luke over to his uncle and aunt, which is Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru. As he walks off into the desert, the young couple stare at the twin suns rising over their homestead. And that's it. And that's it. It rolls on to the credits for the end of Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. And that is basically it. That is basically my breakdown on Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. Man, that was a lot to talk about in that breakdown. I mean, it is, I mean, it's a lot to talk about in that breakdown, but you get it. Like, Star Wars, now this leads into my overall thoughts on the movie. I enjoyed this. I really enjoyed this. I enjoyed this movie so much. Yes, there are flaws in the movie, and I will bring it up. But my overall thoughts on this movie, I still enjoy it for what it is. It's basically a fun movie to watch, and of course, it really concludes the prequel trilogy as a whole. So that's a good thing. I mean, the action sequences, the visuals, most of the acting performances are pretty good in this movie, particularly from Ewan McGregor and Ian McDiarmid. Plus, you got Frank Oz as Yoda. Although Hayden Christensen, I know some people said that Hayden Christensen was. I know a lot of people criticized Hayden Christensen's performance as Anakin Skywalker, coming off as whining but also wooden as well. But to me, I didn't think he was that bad. I mean, Episode 2, I guess you can pinpoint Episode 2, you know, when Anakin was more of a teenager and that, like, he was obviously whiny. But at the very least, he does have his shining moments. Like, even in Episode 3, he has a lot of moments where he does shine, especially when he turns to the dark side. But given what he was given in the screenplay, yeah, I can understand why some people didn't admire Hayden Christensen's performance. But over time, a lot of people started to, you know, like his. Over time, a lot of people started to like his performance a lot more here and there. I mean, come on. Come on. It's literally. Come on. It's Anakin Skywalker. But also at the same time, after seeing some of the Disney Star Wars projects, you know, like post 20th Century Fox and post Clone Wars, a lot of people started to lean back towards the prequels a lot more, right? Like, the most recent Star Wars project that they have ever done so far was, well, actually, the more current one they did, actually, just recently, Disney Plus dropped the second season of Andor, but prior to that, they had the Acolyte and the Skeleton Crew. But looking at the Acolyte is said to be the worst Star Wars TV show, and I watched the whole Acolyte series, and I did not like that show. I thought that show, in my opinion, was pure garbage. I did not like the Acolyte. It makes me appreciate the prequel trilogy a lot more. Even the sequel trilogy alone. I mean, the sequel trilogy, I mean, it had a good start, but it went downhill at the end, and that one also made me appreciate the prequels a lot more. But at the same time, I mean, it's not without flaws for Star Wars: Revenge of the Sith, particularly like Hayden Christensen's performance. I mean, yeah, it was wooden and he was still whiny, but he did have moments where he shined, and I thought Hayden Christensen was a little more mature, just a slight bit compared to what he had in episode 2. But that's more on the screenplay as well. Another thing to point out is like the romantic chemistry between him and Padme Amidala. I thought it was okay, but it was obviously a weak point from George Lucas as well. From George Lucas as well. Just to throw it out there. And here's another thing about Revenge of the Sith that some people pointed out. And like I said, a lot of people pointed out Hayden Christensen's performance as Anakin Skywalker, but there are some people who pointed out of how General Grievous was treated in this movie. Now, look, I'm just gonna go on a limb and say I think General Grievous was obviously one of the coolest characters to come out of Star Wars, right? I thought General Grievous was a cool villain. Sure, maybe not as cool as Darth Vader, Darth Sidious, or Darth Maul, but he was still cool on his own level. But the thing is, and I think there's a good reason behind why he was treated like this. General Grievous in Revenge of the Sith coughs a lot, right? For the scenes that he was in, he spends a lot of time coughing, right? And I'm pretty sure that's the reason why some people didn't like Grievous in this movie, but there is a reason why he was like this. To anybody who has watched the Genndy Tartakovsky Star Wars Clone Wars show, which is, spoiler alert, no longer canon and is basically part of Legends. I mean, you can thank Disney, Lucasfilm, and Kathleen Kennedy for that. In the final episode before the movie, General Grievous captured Chancellor Palpatine, but also a Jedi named Shaak Ti. And as Grievous was boarding his starship with Shaak Ti and Chancellor Palpatine, Mace Windu was about to duel with Grievous. So actually, Grievous was going to duel with Mace Windu for a sec. Like, he had his lightsabers out, but unfortunately, Mace Windu force crushed General Grievous's midsection, and this gets him to cough. And another thing to back up too is that Grievous in the Star Wars lore, he was actually a human. I think he was an alien. I think it was more of an alien humanoid before he became a droid general. The real parts of his body is basically, his actual lungs and heart, which is actually shown in this movie, by the way. And yes, Mace Windu force crushed General Grievous's midsection, causing him to, cough. And that's basically the reason why he was like this in this movie. So I can understand why some people didn't like Grievous in this movie. But also the fact he didn't really have that much screen time in the movie, to be quite honest. But he still posed as an intimidating threat. I mean, heck, he took on Obi-Wan Kenobi in the middle of the movie, and yet he was shot down by Kenobi towards the end of their fight. And sure, yeah, maybe he was your typical Saturday morning villain. Yeah, sure, he did run away like a coward, particularly in the beginning of the movie, where, he was going to fight Anakin and Obi-Wan, but he escaped by saying, "You lose, General Kenobi." Like, you couldn't have at least had one battle between Anakin and Obi-Wan just for a short time and then just leave? Why couldn't you do that? Why couldn't he done that? Also as a side note, I do like his conversation with Anakin meeting for the first time. It's like, "Anakin Skywalker, I was expecting someone to be much older. General Grievous, you're shorter than I expected. Jedi scum." But anyway, that's enough about that. Also to mention, on some of the lines I mentioned, I think this movie has some of the most memorable one-liners in this movie out of all the Star Wars movies. Sure, yeah, you got lines like, "No, I am your father." And then, of course, you also got lines like, "The Force is strong with you, young Skywalker." And then, of course, you also have, "Strike me down with all of your hatred and journey towards the dark side will be completed." Sure, you got lines like this, but Episode 3, I can think of so many lines from this movie that I can remember off the top of my head. Like, sure, the screenplay is obviously the weakest point in basically the prequel trilogy, but man, does it have some of the most memorable lines. But I would say cheesy at best, but it's so memorable. But it's so memorable. And yes, you do have some bad lines. Probably at the time, the most infamous line was obviously from Episode 2, where Anakin was talking about, sand, right? Like, "I don't like sand. It's coarse, rough, irritated, and it gets everywhere." Like, yeah, you got that line. which is obviously at the time one of the worst lines to come out of Star Wars. Episode 3 literally went out of its way to throw out some quippy one-liners as well. Oh my goodness. Even the fight between Dooku, Obi-Wan, and Anakin was also good, but I think after watching this, there is a goofed up line where Anakin tells Count Dooku, "My powers are double since the last time we met, Count." And this was on my mind, and I'm just like, I think Dave Filoni just entered the chat, right? And the reason being because after Episode 3 came out, Dave Filoni worked on the new Star Wars The Clone Wars TV show, where the animation is more 3D animation, and that ran for 7 seasons, and there are multiple episodes where Anakin and Obi-Wan confronted Count Dooku on multiple occasions. So even before that, Anakin and Obi-Wan have met Count Dooku on Geonosis. So that's like the last time they met. Now, Dave Filoni has entered the chat and just put in made multiple episodes where Anakin and Obi-Wan confronted Dooku on several occasions. So yeah. But hey, Count Dooku's like, good, twice the pride, double the fall. Obviously, that could be a reference to Episode 2, but I'm pretty sure he's referring to both Anakin and Obi-Wan, right? But anyway, the fight scenes in this movie are really good. Episode 3, the prequel trilogies have the best lightsaber fights. They have the best lightsaber fights. It is choreographed so well, and fast too. It's fast paced as well. Especially the final battle. The final battle is so fast paced, but it feels long. It's a long lightsaber fight. It's basically the battle between student and teacher in the Mustafar system, and that is amazing. What really works is not only the choreography, but also the music from John Williams. Like I said, John Williams should have been nominated for an Oscar. I think this was his best score that he did in the entire prequel trilogy. And sure, he didn't get nominated for episodes 1 and 2. He did not get an Oscar nomination for that. He should have been nominated for this one. Also, as a side note, it got nominated for 1 Oscar, and that is for Best Makeup. And I think that honor went to Anakin's transformation, his burnt-up transformation, when he got burnt to a crisp right by the river of lava. And then, of course, Emperor Palpatine's transformation as well. The makeup for that is real good. Sure, yeah, I know. Sure, yes. We can also pinpoint that it's mostly CGI, but there are definitely some practical moments to this too. But also to mention as well, we're segueing into another good thing about this movie. Overall thought is the visual effects. I enjoy the visual effects in this movie, right? The visual effects are good. Sure, yes, there's probably 1 or 2 moments where the CGI is obvious. Most notably, for example, the clone trooper outfits that they are wearing. It's basically CGI. I don't understand, why is there an actual outfit, practical, real-life outfit for these clone troopers? I don't understand that, but yet again, that's just a minor thing on my end. Thankfully though, the Mandalorian and the Obi-Wan Kenobi TV show actually provided real-life outfits to make clone trooper outfits, right? For some of the clone trooper scenes. The clone troopers actually made appearances in the 3rd season of The Mandalorian, and of course, the first episode of the Obi-Wan Kenobi TV show. Just to throw that out there. And I'm pretty sure a little bit of it in the Ahsoka Tano show, I believe. But yeah, that's something minor. But one big standout for the visual effect, in my opinion, is basically General Grievous's CGI. Now look, I've already said about Grievous's appearance, but my goodness, his CGI holds up so well. You look at General Grievous, it is CGI, but the way how it was made, it looks like he's actually there. But no, it's CGI. But the CGI looks so real, and it's shocking that it didn't get an Oscar nomination for Best Visuals, right? Like, the CGI on General Grievous is really, really good. The person who did the voice, however, was done by sound designer Matthew Wood, and he also provided the sound effects for the Star Wars Prequel Trilogy, plus most of the battle droids as well, and did the voice for General Grievous. That is amazing right there. But the CGI in Grievous, probably the best CGI that they had for General Grievous in this movie. Okay, performance-wise, I think the big aside from Hayden Christensen, which I already tackled him, Ewan McGregor, Ian McDermott, Samuel L. Jackson, Frank Oz, and Jimmy Smits are basically the heavy hitters in this movie. And let's be honest, Ewan McGregor deserves a lot of credit for his Obi-Wan Kenobi role. Like sure, he won't top Alec Guinness, but he really held his own. He really carried this trilogy on his back right there. Like, Ewan McGregor deserved a lot of credit for his role of Obi-Wan Kenobi, despite the writing, though. And then Frank Oz. I actually liked Frank Oz as Yoda. Like, his appearance in basically this movie plus the entire prequel trilogy is really good too. His CGI though is also good too. And Ian McDermott as Darth Sidious, Chancellor Palpatine, well casted. He was obviously well casted to play the role of Darth Sidious, aka Emperor Palpatine. Now, another thing to mention is Natalie Portman. I think Natalie Portman did a fine job. Although, despite the writing though, like I said, the weakest points of this movie is basically the writing from George Lucas. Like, his direction is good, but his writing is not that strong. Most notably, her romantic scenes with Anakin Skywalker, though, right? Like, the romantic scenes, they're okay, but it's not that. It wasn't really that great. It wasn't really that great. Although let's be honest, I would take the romantic scenes between Anakin and Padme over Rey and Kylo Ren's chemistry. Enough said. Well, if I'm comparing like chemistry between the prequels and the sequel trilogy, right? Alright. Anyway, I thought the worlds going to the different planets were pretty cool too. Like Coruscant, Utapau, the Mustafar system, like, it is real amazing. It is really cool. Like, it's real cool. Like, it's really cool to see, like, the different worlds. And I think that's, like, another strong point from George Lucas, is that we get to explore different planets besides, Naboo, Tatooine. Like, it's amazing that we got to see other planets, too, like that. Like, I really like the other planets, especially the Mustafar system, and I think it really symbolizes very well for Anakin Skywalker, because Anakin Skywalker at that point is obviously in hell, and he's basically the fallen Jedi who has turned from the light side to the dark side of the Force, right there. Alright, if I were to rank this movie, I give it an 8 out of 10, because almost everything in this movie, from most of the acting performances, to the visual effects, to the musical score, to the lightsaber battles, to the different worlds, to the different worlds. Of course, I forgot to mention Kashyyyk. Yes, Kashyyyk. We got to see Kashyyyk in this movie. Another world another planet we got to visit in this movie, plus a couple other planets. I mean, I think this movie had the most locations that we have ever gone to in this movie. But anyway, that's going off topic. But yeah, I give it an 8 out of 10 for basically the performances, the locations, the music, the lightsaber fights, the visual effects. But of course, I mean, I would have ranked it a lot higher if the writing was not a problem, and of course, affecting some of the performances from Hayden Christensen or Natalie Portman. But it's fine. But you know what? That's fine. But hey, you know what? I'm still okay with. But hey, you know what? I'm still okay for this movie for being what it is, right? I'm still okay with it, despite its problems. So anyway, to close this off, let's talk about some trivia here, shall we? All right. So here's one thing: George Lucas deliberately made the Darth Vader suit top heavy. For instance, adding weight on the helmet to make Hayden Christensen not appear too accustomed to it in the movie. Well, that's an interesting thing right there. And to move forward, the original cut of the movie ran nearly 4 hours. The opening battle slash Palpatine rescue alone ran over an hour. The extra footage of the Palpatine rescue scene is shown in the video game for this movie, however. That is a very interesting thing to bring up because some of the deleted scenes that I watched from Revenge of the Sith, one of them actually featured Shaak Ti's death in the hands of General Grievous, and I'm surprised that scene was cut though. But of course, keeping in the continuity, this is where Anakin and Obi-Wan are seeing Grievous, right? And of course, knowing the fact that Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, is the first time Anakin and Grievous have interacted with each other, even though in the Clone Wars there are basically almost on several occasions where they almost bumped into each other, aside from holograms, right? We're talking about in person, right? Not like over the phone or via holograms. You know how in Star Trek 2, The Wrath of Khan, where Khan and Kirk are meeting via video footage, right? Via, I forgot what it's called. It's basically, on the teleprompter, right? It's basically on screen, right? They're not in person, right? Now they're not face to face, right? They're basically screen to screen, right? Technically, it's not in person. It's screen from screen. This movie, Episode 3, however, this is the first time they have met in person. I guess one of the reasons why they kind of cut it just so they can keep the continuity, but at the same time, it did cut off a key part of where Grievous kills a Jedi and takes the lightsaber as a trophy for his lightsaber collection, right? That's like a key point of who General Grievous is. Like, he's an absolute warrior, and he hunts down Jedi, keeps the lightsabers as trophies, right? And those lightsabers represent the Jedis who were killed in battle by Grievous. So that's like one key point that they cut off. Also to mention too, this is also tied, and of course, I really wish Disney Lucasfilm didn't make Star Wars Clone Wars from Tartakovsky uncanon, even though there were references to it in the Star Wars The Clone Wars by Dave Filoni. I really wish they didn't make that uncanon. Even in the final season of Star Wars The Clone Wars, which is season 7, there is basically a direct reference to Palpatine being captured by General Grievous, right? So there is basically mentions of that too. But yeah, knowing the fact that this entire opening sequence ran for almost an hour, that is crazy right there. Imagine seeing a director's cut of it, right? Of course, you still got the lightsaber fight between Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Dooku, which is obviously a good fight. I really enjoyed the fight. All right, moving forward. So anyway, Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen for the final lightsaber fight. The two actors trained for 2 months in fencing and fitness in preparation for their epic battle. As a result of their practice, the speed at which Kenobi and Vader engaged the duel in the completed movie is the speed in which it was filmed and was not digitally accelerated. Going back to what I said, this battle was obviously fast-paced, but it felt longer. But knowing the fact that this was not digitally accelerated makes the fight even more awesome. Also, speaking of training, Hayden Christensen gained 24 pounds for this movie, and he did so by eating 6 meals a day. That's interesting right there. One thing I completely forgot is the appearance of R2-D2 and C-3PO. Like, they're basically sidelined in this movie. Although most notably C-3PO. C-3PO gets sidelined in this movie, who's basically, with the with the Republic. He's basically hanging out with the Republic while R2-D2 hangs out with Anakin Skywalker. But knowing the fact that apart from providing the voice of R2-D2 and the heavy breathing of Darth Vader, which has been done since Star Wars A New Hope, Ben Burt, who's the sound designer, he provided the voice. He provided the voices for every Battle Droid, Super Battle Droid, and Buzz Droid. Although I think Matthew Wood also provided some of the voices for the other droids as well. Aside from General Grievous. Moving forward, here's another thing. Natalie Portman considers this movie her favorite of the 3 Star Wars movies she was in. I can't blame her for that. I mean, hey, it's obviously the best of the prequel trilogy, right? So anyway, here's another thing. George Lucas allowed his friend Steven Spielberg to help design some sequences during pre-production. This was partly because Spielberg wanted the experience of using the pre-visualization techniques pioneered by Industrial Light and Magic, which is basically the visual effects company that was the visual effects company that was basically on board for making all the Star Wars movies plus the visual effects as well. And as he was going to use them for War of the Worlds that Spielberg was doing with Tom Cruise, and it was also because Lucas felt that his roles as writer, director, executive producer, and financier were taking up too much of his time, and he needed another director to bounce ideas off. Spielberg's main contribution was in the climactic lightsaber battle between Obi-Wan and Anakin. And that's actually very nice that Spielberg was able to step in and help George Lucas. Also, as a side note, Steven Spielberg was originally going to direct Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, but he passed on. He decided not to, and George Lucas ended up directing the first one, and George Lucas ended up directing Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. Although it would be interesting to see it would be interesting to see Steven Spielberg's take on the prequel trilogy. That actually would have been interesting right there. So anyway, the Wookiee costumes for the Battle of Kashyyyk and all the Wookiees for this movie sported a new arterial system that pumped ice-cold water to help cool down the actors wearing the suit. I mean, obviously you gotta keep the actors cool, right, and not, sweaty and hot inside the suit, right? And Han Solo was originally going to appear in the Battle of Kashyyyk, and he would have helped locate General Grievous by finding part of a transmitter to a droid that was sending signals from Utapau, allowing Obi-Wan to find and confront him. However, Solo's young adult years were later depicted in Solo: A Star Wars Story, set between 12 and 9 years after this movie. And the volcanic world of Mustafar was designed to look like George Lucas's vision of hell. Actually, that makes sense, particularly of how Anakin's turn to the dark side went. And then the subtle title Revenge of the Sith is a play on the working subtitle for Star Wars Episode 6: Return of the Jedi. It was actually going to title Revenge of the Jedi. For Episode 6, that title was abandoned because George Lucas determined that revenge was not a suitable attitude for a Jedi. Since this film, however, is about the triumph of the Sith, revenge is entirely important. And and of course, if you remember something from Star Wars Rebels, during Darth Vader's fight with Ahsoka Tano, Ahsoka told Vader, "I will avenge Anakin Skywalker's death." And Darth Vader was like, "Revenge is not the Jedi way." This was also mentioned from Chancellor Palpatine telling Anakin, when Anakin killed Count Dooku, Palpatine was like, he cut off your arm, you wanted revenge, right? But of course, Anakin is like, I should have done that. It's not the Jedi way. This also points out the hypocrisy too, because that later on comes back when Mace Windu was about to kill Chancellor Palpatine, in his Darth Sidious form, and Anakin was like, it's not the Jedi way. He must live. But Mace Windu was going to finish him off up until, Anakin cuts off Mace Windu's arm, right? You know, that's basically calling back to the previous scene, right? So yeah, I guess you could say also revenge is obviously appropriate for the title of this movie, right? And of course, speaking of Chancellor Palpatine, there is a scene where Anakin informs Chancellor Palpatine of Obi-Wan finding Grievous, and Palpatine can be seen studying the plans of the Death Star, which is also shown at the end of Episode 3, by the way. And then, of course, after the climactic duel between Obi-Wan and Anakin, Obi-Wan can be seen picking up Anakin's lightsaber, which he later gives to Luke in Star Wars: A New Hope. Now, the battle with the Wookiees dates back to the earliest screenplays of Star Wars: A New Hope. Originally, the Wookiees were supposed to help the rebels conquer an Imperial bunker. This idea was basis for the Battle of Endor in Star Wars: Return of the Jedi, but instead of using Wookiees, George Lucas decided to use a smaller, furry race called the Ewoks. Now, of course, the movie's final shot is meant to mirror the famous shot of Luke Skywalker in A New Hope when he looked out on the two sunsets. It is the only shot of the film kept in widescreen format on the Pan and Scan DVD release. Now, here's an interesting thing. Now, going back to Count Dooku and General Grievous, the two villains had a small amount of screen time, right? Like Count Dooku, for example, he speaks a total of 4 lines, and he is not in this, and he's basically only in the beginning of the movie. Like Christopher Lee is only in the movie for 3 minutes, and I think Grievous had more screen time than Count Dooku, despite their interactions in Star Wars: The Clone Wars. But on Muba for the movies, they're both in the movie. They just don't interact in the movie at all, right? Also, here's another trivia. The stunt choreography was done by Nick Gillard, who did the lightsaber, who was in charge of the lightsaber choreography, right? And then, Grievous. General Grievous only had 6 minutes of screen time in this movie. Also, for the scene with Darth Vader, James Earl Jones, who provided the voice of Darth Vader, when specifically asked if he had supplied the voice of Vader either newly or from a previous recording, James Earl Jones answered, "You have to ask Lucas about that. I don't know." So, he's not really sure, but I got a feeling the final cut of it says it all. Because Darth Vader talked in the movie, I think he only had 4 lines, if you include that no part, right? But anyway, yeah, there's a lot going on in this movie. Now, of course, the clone trooper outfits are basically CGI. There's no there's no practical costume for that, so it's basically CGI. I mean, the CGI is fine, but I really wish they would have done a actual practical costume, right? And of course, Star Wars: Revenge of the Sith is the only movie in the prequel trilogy where C-3PO has a gold painted shell like in the original trilogy, which he would have received sometime between the events of Star Wars: Attack of the Clones and this movie. He got that the gold painted shell in the Genndy Tartakovsky Star Wars show, just to throw that out there. Also to mention, I heard the fight was going to be a lot longer for Count Dooku, Anakin, and Obi-Wan for some reason. In fact, I think I saw some behind-the-scenes videos of the actual fight where it was actually a lot longer. But I think the fight itself in the final cut, I still enjoy it for what it is. Although I can't imagine the long fight. I can't imagine the fights. I can't imagine how different this movie was if the fight was actually longer. Also, this is the only Star Wars movie that did not receive an Academy Award nomination for Best Visual Effects, which is absolutely true. I feel like it should have been nominated for that too. Plus, music as well for John Williams. John Williams did an amazing job with this. But it was nominated for makeup, which lost to The Chronicles of Narnia, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, which also came out in 2005. And yes, this is also the final Star Wars movie to be distributed by 20th Century Fox before Walt Disney acquired Lucasfilm. And then of course the opening shot of the movie lasts 1 minute and 16 seconds after the disappearance of the opening crawl, which makes it the longest of any Star Wars movie. And that's basically the opening crawl transitioning to the Battle of Coruscant with the Republic attack cruiser, right? And then, yes, Yoda was actually created digitally with CGI. And then, of course, also to mention too, they actually did use the puppet version of Yoda for Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. On the DVD I got, I forgot what year it was. It was probably a 2011 release DVD. It was probably a 2004 or 2005 DVD release. Um, that DVD release had the puppet version of Yoda, but unfortunately later re-releases on DVD, which is basically from 2011 and so forth, had the CGI model of Yoda. And of course, going back to the planet Mustafar, it's similar to the Arabic name Mustafa, roughly translates to the Chosen One. That's very interesting right there because Anakin is clearly the Chosen One. Clearly naming him Mustafar after Mustafa and translating it to the Chosen One, there are so many layers to that, and that's a very interesting way to, spell it out, right? Also, John Williams passed on scoring Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire in favor of Revenge of the Sith and Memoirs of a Geisha. And I think John Williams was nominated for Memoirs of a Geisha for an Oscar, I believe. I haven't seen Memoirs of a Geisha, although I did hear some good things about it, but imagine if he got nominated for Revenge of the Sith, though. And I can't imagine if he actually scored the rest of the Harry Potter movies, because I really enjoyed his Harry Potter theme from the first 3 Harry Potter movies, right? And then Christopher Lee, or should I say Sir Christopher Lee, filmed all of his scenes in 2 days. His filming schedule was moved up to follow pickup shots for The Lord of the Rings: The Return of the King in New Zealand. All of his scenes were shot in front of a green screen because the General's Quarters set had not yet been built. And then, of course, the famous franchise trademark dialogue that Obi-Wan Kenobi says, "I have a bad feeling about this," during one of the first scenes of the movie, and that's during the Battle of Coruscant. And this is when they're about to enter Grievous's ship, and Obi-Wan's like, "Oh, I have a bad feeling about this." Wow. Hey, you guys made it out alive, right? Well, during that battle, right? Going into Grievous's ship. Speaking of General Grievous, Matthew Wood was not the only actor who was going to voice Grievous. It turns out Gary Oldman had agreed to be the voice of General Grievous, but pulled out of the movie because it was being made using actors who are not part of the Screen Actors Guild, of which Oldman is a member of. George Lucas once quit the Writers Guild, Directors Guild, and the Motion Picture Association of America over a dispute concerning Star Wars: The Empire Strikes Back, and has not been able to work with the Guild actors since. The role was read by Duncan Young on set and finally voiced by Matthew Wood, who, being a Lucasfilm employee, submitted his reading under the name Alan Smithy. So Matthew Wood, obviously the voice of Grievous, he did a fantastic job. He will later go on to do that he will later voice Grievous in the Star Wars: The Clone Wars TV show with Dave Filoni. And also, George Lucas made a cameo appearance as the blue-skinned Baron Papanoida, who appears just outside the entrance to Palpatine's private box at the Galaxy's Opera House. And speaking of which, for George Lucas, Lucas provided the sound of Grievous's coughing, and this is from George Lucas's own coughing, after developing a bad cough during production, and George Lucas had it recorded and used as Grievous's own cough. That's actually very interesting right there. And also, George Lucas's son, Jet Lucas, was the young Jedi who rushes from the temple towards Bail Organa's speeder during the Jedi Purge. And also, one more thing to mention, Star Wars Revenge of the Sith is the first Star Wars movie to receive a PG-13, most notably because of Anakin's final transformation to Darth Vader. Because this is when Anakin gets burnt to a crisp from the river of lava, and he gets burnt alive, and Obi-Wan sees it all, right? Like, and this leads up to, to his final transformation into Vader, right? He still got the mechanical arm after he lost it to Count Dooku in Episode 2, but just to throw this out there. Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, is the first Star Wars movie to receive a PG-13 rating. And that is basically about it. And that's the end of the trivia, folks. And that is basically about it for this episode. Like I said, I still enjoy Revenge of the Sith. Like, is arguably the best Star Wars movie to come out of the prequel trilogy, and it will continue on to, and it will be remembered for years to come. And of course, yes, it is re-released in theaters. It's actually nice that this movie got a re-release for its 20th anniversary, knowing how popular this movie is. But anyway, that is about it for this episode. So, what did you guys, to anybody who is listening, what did you guys think of Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith? Did you like the movie? Did you not like the movie? Did you think the movie is okay? Do you believe the movie holds up after 20 years? I would love to hear your thoughts. But anyway, that is a wrap for this episode. Thank you all for tuning into Codo Cinema. I'm your host, Mark Codo, aka Codoman. Remember to watch movies and stay positive.